I had 8,888 ex-boyfriends. Just before I was seized by kidnappers, my phone vibrated. A strange message appeared. 3 days without washing your hair, and you'll run into an ex-boyfriend every time you step out. At that moment, I vaguely wondered if this rule were truly effective. Surely my 18 living ex-boyfriends, each lending a hand, would be enough to drag me out of the clutches of these traffickers, right? The clock was ticking. Only 6 hours remained until it would be exactly 3 days since I last washed my hair. Initially, my intention was just to pop into a convenience store and grab a bottle of shampoo. But life, as they say, is not a dream. My carelessness turned me into an easy target, falling into the trap of two despicable human traffickers, forced to swallow a full dose of anesthetic. Waking up, I found myself bound and cramped on the backseat of a strange car. Through the window, majestic, endless mountain ranges stretched out, one after another, seemingly without end. "Hey, boss tiger, the girl's awake, be careful." The guy in the passenger seat, with a face as gaunt as a gorilla, stared at me with a scrutinizing gaze. The one called Boss Tiger sneered confidently. "What's there to be afraid of? We're deep in here, there's not a soul for 10 miles. Even if she grew wings, she wouldn't escape." Two traffickers, one as thin as a monkey, the other burly and fat as a box. Quite a humorous combination. No, horrifying actually. Perhaps due to the lingering effects of the anesthetic, my head spun heavy. In my daze, I recalled that bizarre message, the one I received right before I was kidnapped. The content was brief, just 2 sentences. 3 days without washing your hair, go out and you'll meet an ex-boyfriend. Trust this rule, it will save your life in a crucial moment. To be honest, I had skimmed it at the time and dismissed it, not paying it any mind. But now, alone and kidnapped into a remote mountainous region, surrounded by desolate wilderness, I could only cling to a sliver of fragile, mystical hope. Speaking of which, I had been in 19 relationships. Excluding my first love, who had passed away, there were still 18 guys alive and kicking. If that, 3 days without washing your hair, curse actually worked, then 18 people joining forces. Surely that would be enough to kick these two beastly men away, right? "Oh, how long have I been unconscious?" I timidly spoke up, facing the scheming eyes of the skinny, gorilla-faced man. He let out a scoffing laugh. "Boss Tiger, this girl's strange. The others all wail and beg to go home, but she's concerned about how long she was out." Fat Tiger frowned, his face annoyed. "Just petty tricks. She wants to calculate how far we've gone. She's been out all night, she probably forgot the escape route already." All night, so I had met the 3 days without washing my hair condition for that rule to take effect. "See, can I go to the bathroom? I really can't hold it anymore," I pleaded desperately. Monkey sneered. "Another bathroom trick. We've kidnapped so many, and every one of them uses this excuse. No creativity whatsoever." Tiger slammed on the brakes. "Fine, go. It'll also open your eyes to what this wild and dangerous place is like. See if you can escape." Escape, honestly, the thought hadn't even crossed my mind yet. Struggling to suppress my wildly beating heart, I waited until Monkey unbound my feet, then quickly stepped out of the car. The moment I set foot outside, a blinding light suddenly enveloped me, making my eyes sting painfully. I quickly turned my face away. When the light gradually softened, the sight before me left me stunned. My 18 ex-boyfriends stood in neat rows, appearing abruptly in the middle of the deep, dark forest. The rule in that message was real after all, but the way these 18 men appeared was completely different from what I had imagined. In my head, they were supposed to appear like in a K-drama. Slowly walking to a melodious tune, draped in long trench coats, soft yellow lights illuminating their cool, aloof faces. But in reality, some were still in their pajamas, some holding toothbrushes, some half asleep, and one was even bathing, completely naked. Oh my God, after breaking up, they should at least keep their distance. "Stop looking," I quickly squinted. The one who was bathing hurriedly grabbed a blanket from the sleeping guy and covered himself. The sleeping guy, startled by the cold, woke up, looked around confusedly, mumbling, "What am I dreaming? So strange." Then he rolled over and went back to sleep. I sighed. This is truly a disaster. I forgot it was the weekend. Most of them are still fast asleep. Monkey panicked. "What's going on? There was clearly no one here a moment ago." Boss Tiger couldn't believe his eyes. Who are you people? What the hell are you doing here? Responding to him were just 18 dumbfounded faces, staring blankly at each other. Monkey held me tightly. I couldn't run towards my ex-boyfriends. All I could do was shout, "These two are traffickers, help me." In my head, I calculated, 18 against 2 were sure to win. I even planned to stand on the side and cheer them on. But very quickly, I couldn't maintain that enthusiasm anymore. "Those two bastards have guns?" Tiger pressed the gun to my head. "Stop, you take another step and I'll shoot her dead." Monkey also pointed his gun at my ex-boyfriends. "Anyone moves and I'll shoot." My ex-boyfriends, who were about to charge, immediately froze. The guy who was sleeping finally woke up completely. "This place is so strange. Sora, why are you here?" With a gun pointed at my head, I almost cried. "I've been kidnapped." He truly was useless. He looked around vaguely and asked, then why am I here? Oh right, why are you all here?" Tiger frowned, pressing the gun closer, and growled at me, "You know these guys?" I swallowed hard. "Actually, they're all my ex-boyfriends." Tiger's eyes were filled with astonishment. "How did they find you? Do you have a tracker?" Before I could say anything, Monkey spoke up. "Boss Tiger, something's not right about this. These guys just appeared out of nowhere, like they dropped from the sky. I drove carefully, no one was following us." Tiger looked at me with an increasingly strange gaze. "Are you some kind of sorceress? This is too superstitious." I tried to feign ignorance. "Actually, I don't know how they got here either. Maybe it's a spiritual connection." "Damn it, are you messing with me?" Tiger exploded, pressing the gun directly to my forehead. "Tell me the truth, or I'll shoot you dead, then shoot all your ex-boyfriends too." I trembled with fear. Just then, Monkey rummaged through my phone and suddenly asked, "How many days have you not washed your hair?" I stammered, "3 days." Monkey's pupils suddenly contracted. He handed the phone to Tiger. "Boss Tiger, look at this." He had found the message I received before I was caught. Tiger's face turned as black as a cooking pot after reading it. "You actually believe this nonsense, but this is truly bizarre. How else can we explain these guys suddenly appearing here?" Tiger fell into deep thought. Monkey boldly suggested, "How about we try an experiment?" My 18 poor ex-boyfriends were all tightly bound by Skinny Monkey, and Fat Tiger used my life to threaten them, forcing them, who still didn't understand what was happening, to obediently obey. All the hope in my heart vanished into thin air. 18 people were easily subdued by 2 armed men. After tying them up, Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey continued to escort me on the road. I cautiously asked, "We're leaving. What about them?" "Leaving them in this desolate wilderness is too dangerous." Fat Tiger grumpily spat on the ground. "Forget them. I'm not a delivery service. No refunds or exchanges." I sighed. "My ex-boyfriends? I'm sorry I couldn't warn you guys to bring weapons before coming. There are many wild animals in the mountains, and it's cold. Plus, one of you isn't even wearing clothes. Please take care of yourselves." While I was secretly praying for them, the car suddenly stopped. We had only driven about 10 kilometers, it seemed. Skinny Monkey opened the car door and ordered me out. "Are we there already?" I vaguely guessed what they intended to do, hesitating to move. "Too many questions?" Monkey didn't wait for my reaction, directly grabbing my leg and dragging me unceremoniously out of the car. The moment I stepped out of the car, a dazzling light flared up again before my eyes. This time, not just me, but both Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey stared intently at the bizarre light, unable to look away. And then, a whole new batch of my ex-boyfriends emerged one by one from the light. That rule in the message had worked again. Fat Tiger was stunned. "Is it really true?" Monkey approached to check their bindings, his face clearly excited. "This knot style hasn't been untied at all. It's unique to our village, outsiders can't replicate it. They really did teleport here." My ex-boyfriends were still dazed. "Sora, what in the world is going on? This morning we were clearly at home. How did we suddenly appear here?" I was so embarrassed, I got goosebumps. This is really hard to explain. Basically, you just have to not wash your hair for 3 days, and whenever you step out of a door, you'll meet an ex-boyfriend. One of them was skeptical, but I didn't leave the house. I was clearly still inside. I awkwardly clarified, "A car door counts as a door too." At this moment, Skinny Monkey circled my 18 ex-boyfriends and suddenly sneered slyly. You have quite a few ex-boyfriends, don't you? That attitude, that tone, clearly hinted at some conspiracy brewing. I humbly replied, just so, I'm still far from the masters in this field. Skinny Monkey's smile grew brighter, his eyes fixed on me. So, how do you find me? I looked at him blankly. Skinny Monkey moved closer, looking directly into my eyes. I want to become your boyfriend. Ah, no, your ex-boyfriend. His eyes seemed to hold a rare glint of sincerity. Fat Tiger immediately erupted in anger, slapping my face hard. He growled, "You crazy idiot, faking it in this situation. Let me tell you, you're going to be sold for an exorbitant price, understand?" Skinny Monkey, his eyes still shining with desire, excitedly shouted, "Boss Tiger, think about it. She just needs 3 days without washing her hair to summon a whole group of ex-boyfriends here. Why bother selling her?" Fat Tiger snorted in disdain. What's so hard about that? Just make her wash her hair every day, then those ex-boyfriends won't even be able to avoid her. Problem solved. Skinny Monkey shook his head vigorously, frantically protesting. Boss Tiger, you misunderstood me. Think bigger. She has this special ability that could be used for so many great things. For example, if I become her ex-boyfriend later, when we want to kidnap someone, we won't need to laboriously plan and set up traps. I just need to embrace the target in the town, and you, standing outside the village gate, push her out. Won't that person be instantly teleported here? It's fast, saves effort, and minimizes risks to the maximum. This way of thinking is truly a breakthrough enlightenment. Fat Tiger suddenly had a revelation. You're right, that makes sense. Skinny Monkey pressed on, seizing the advantage. And that's not all, Boss Tiger. Suppose we get caught and thrown into jail. No problem. Just let her not wash her hair for 3 days, then have her step out of the prison gate. Won't we be pulled out with her? Breaking out of jail would be as easy as pie. Mom won't have to worry about us suffering in prison anymore. Fat Tiger's eyes also lit up with excitement. He yelled, then what are we waiting for? Find a way to become her ex-boyfriend. With that, both simultaneously spun around, staring at me with eyes that seemed to want to devour me whole. So, how do we become her ex-boyfriend? I swallowed hard under the pressure of their calculating gazes and slowly began to speak. You want to be my boyfriend? Well, first you have to be my boyfriend, then we break up, right? Fat Tiger immediately pulled out his gun, pressed it directly to my temple, and roared, then hurry up and be my girlfriend right now, or I'll shoot you dead. This was far too direct, too brutal. Skinny Monkey looked unconvinced and argued, Boss Tiger, didn't you just say to let me be her ex-boyfriend first? Why are you changing it to you now? Fat Tiger shot him a contemptuous glance. I'm your older brother, of course, I have to go first and pave the way for you. Just relax and learn from me. I tried to suppress the rising fear in my heart, desperately trying to find a way to escape. You too, relationships must be based on mutual consent. I have to genuinely like the person and accept who they are for them to count as a boyfriend. Fat Tiger lost patience and roared, too many complicated rules. Today I'm going to force you to be my girlfriend. With that, he aggressively pushed me against the car door, his thick, fleshy lips about to press against my face. My 18 ex-boyfriends, still bound tightly nearby, simultaneously cried out in horror, their expressions utterly revolting. Finally, one quick-witted guy came up with an idea and shouted, No, that won't work. Who would ever accept someone who forces them as a boyfriend? She has to like you, not hate you, for it to count. Fat Tiger froze, his movement stopping instantly. I quickly cooperated, trying to force out 2 tears of grievance. If you two dare to do anything to me, I will never, ever accept you as my lovers for the rest of my life. Even if you force me to say yes, in my heart, I will never admit to having known you. Skinny Monkey hurriedly pulled Fat Tiger aside and whispered into his ear. Boss Tiger, they're right. Love is about nurturing feelings, building a relationship. If you scare her, our whole plan is ruined. Fat Tiger irritably scratched his head. So troublesome, what do we do now? Skinny Monkey soothed him, calming him down to analyze. Love, you see, is about getting to know the other person, caring for them, treating them well. Look at me. With that, Monkey stepped in front of me, trying to force out the brightest smile he could. I heard those guys call you Sora just now, right? I nodded. What a lovely name. His voice deliberately softened, trying to create a gentle, warm feeling, but to me, it only sent chills down my spine and gave me goosebumps. I shivered. Thank you. Seeing me respond, Skinny Monkey smiled even wider, his yellow teeth fully exposed, making me want to scream. So, Sora, what kind of man do you like? I pointed to the group of tied-up men behind me. My type, aren't they all tied up right in front of you? Skinny Monkey glanced over. My ex-boyfriends immediately straightened their backs, trying to strike a pose. Some even confidently styled their hair with flair. HMPH, men, even when tied up in the middle of nowhere, they never forget to show off. Skinny Monkey looked around, then said, Sora, it seems your type is quite consistent, huh? I nodded. It seemed he was quite observant. My ex-boyfriends, regardless of their build or fashion sense, basically all belonged to the same type. I was about to say something when one of them suddenly spoke, his voice cold. It's true that we're similar, because we're all just substitutes for her first love. The moment he finished speaking, the others all chimed in. Exactly, she once said my eyes were the most like her first love's innocent and radiant. Later, I became nearsighted, and she dumped me mercilessly. My nose was tall and straight. Later, I got hit playing basketball and broke my nose. She broke up with me then, too. I met her at the gym. She said I was like her first love because I had a unique 7-pack. Later, I got fat, the 7-pack became 1, and she immediately dumped me. The ex-boyfriends vied to share their woes, collaborating perfectly. I felt like I was being publicly tried in the village square. Fat Tiger was so shocked his worldview shattered. He couldn't help but ask me, "Good heavens, how many ex-boyfriends do you have in total?" I weakly replied, 19 people. Skinny Monkey counted the number of people present, frowning. Why are there only 18 here? Fat Tiger immediately grew wary. Could it be that one of them wasn't affected by that bizarre messages rule? What's going on? I closed my eyes, sinking into sad and painful memories. 3 years ago, my first love passed away, so... I hadn't even finished my sentence when a strange, shimmering aura of light appeared before my eyes, and a deep, gentle voice echoed from within the light. Sora, I'm sorry I'm late. My first love, Ethan, quietly stepped out from the light, bearing his familiar, gentle, warm smile. The path from the underworld to the human realm has too many gates to pass through, and the approval process took a while, but it's not too late, is it, my love? Ethan's body was transparent like glass, his feet hovering in the air. I stared at him, utterly disbelieving my eyes. I never imagined this bizarre rule was so powerful it could summon even those who had passed into the underworld. Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey were so stunned their mouths hung open, their eyes wide as they stared at the strange sight before them. Skinny Monkey trembled, raised his gun, aiming directly at Ethan. What are you? His voice wasn't friendly, even tinged with fear, but Ethan calmly introduced himself. I am her first love, the one who passed away 3 years ago. The 18 bound ex-boyfriends simultaneously gasped, a collective chill running down their spines. All of them stared at Ethan with wide eyes and open mouths. Skinny Monkey trembled so much that his hand holding the gun wasn't steady. He looked at Ethan, hovering in the air, his eyes filled with terror, then instinctively squeezed the trigger. Bang, bang, bang. 3 bullets fired consecutively, piercing straight through Ethan's body without any obstruction, embedding themselves into the ancient tree behind. Ethan didn't even flinch. It's a ghost, it's really a ghost. Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey screamed hysterically, so frightened they clung to each other, trembling. Ethan kindly reminded them, what's the use of hugging? Will it make you warmer? The 2 traffickers snapped back to reality, scrambling into the car and locking the doors as tightly as if they were building an impenetrable fortress. Before they could even catch their breath, they turned their heads to find Ethan hovering calmly and freely in the backseat, looking at them with a gentle gaze. It seems that if a ghost wants to get into a car, they don't need to open the door. Just passing through is enough. Another scream tore through the silent night, but halfway through, Fat Tiger's brain suddenly rebooted with a sliver of reason. Damn it, it's just a ghost. If bullets can't hit him, then he can't do anything to us. What's there to be afraid of? Ethan tilted his head and smiled, addressing him. Boss Tiger, you truly are reckless. Fat Tiger seemed a bit disoriented. Immediately after, the guns in both their hands simultaneously flew from the front seat to under the back seat, inexplicably. The car doors automatically opened, and an invisible force dragged them out, slamming their faces into the ground like dogs eating from a trough. I stared wide-eyed at the scene that had just unfolded. "Ethan, you have this trick too?" Ethan smiled, patiently explaining to me, "My soul has merged with the air around here. Although I can't directly touch tangible objects, I can control the air, compressing it to a certain density to create force. For these two traffickers, that's enough." I suddenly understood, nodding. "I see, it's like compressed biscuits are usually harder than regular ones because their density is greater. So, even ghosts rely on physics to mess with things." Ethan gently stroked my head with his transparent hand, his eyes filled with affection. "My Sora is so smart." Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey were pressed so tightly to the ground by the air that they couldn't move, yelling, "What in the world do you want? Are you running a free physics class?" Ethan turned to me and asked, "Sora, how do you want to deal with them? Should we just hand them over to the police, dear?" I thought for a moment and said, "Yes, but this is a remote mountain road, and these two don't seem like they'll be obedient. I'm afraid something unexpected might happen along the way." One of the bound ex-boyfriends had a brilliant idea. "That's easy. Earlier, they wanted to be your ex-boyfriends, so let's grant their wish. You just need to go to the police station and step outside. Won't that automatically deliver them to the police?" This method was truly clever, the thinking much more flexible. However, Ethan immediately shot a disapproving glance at the guy who had just spoken. "Do you really want Sora to have to stick around these two traffickers every time she needs to teleport? That would be like her still being controlled by them." As soon as Ethan refuted, all the other ex-boyfriends fell silent, none daring to utter another word. Oh, I almost forgot. Lost in the exciting drama, I nearly overlooked the fact that my 18 ex-boyfriends were still bound. I quickly freed them. After gaining their freedom, the whole group cautiously refrained from moving too much, their eyes constantly on Ethan, showing extreme vigilance and caution. Ethan saw this and waved his hand, signaling them not to worry. "We're all brothers. I won't do anything to you guys." Hearing Ethan say that, the 18 finally breathed a sigh of relief, shedding a burden from their hearts. Suddenly, one young man, bolder than the rest, bravely spoke up to Ethan. "Brother Ethan, you're Sora's first love. We're all just following after you, so you're our big brother. I have a question, if you wouldn't mind being generous enough to answer it for me." Ethan replied seriously, "Go ahead and ask." The young man nervously scratched his head, seeming a bit hesitant to speak. "What did your 7-pack actually look like? Could we perhaps get a glimpse?" Immediately, 18 pairs of eyes, gleaming like hungry wolves, simultaneously turned towards Ethan. In each pair of eyes, there was boundless longing and curiosity. Could this be the legendary competitive spirit among men? Even I couldn't help but swallow. Honestly, I really wanted to see it again too. Although my previous substitute ex-boyfriend also had a 7-pack, his definition was nowhere near as sharp and clear as Ethan's at that time. Facing the burning gazes from 18 plus one person, Ethan unconsciously let out a long sigh. Only 3 years have passed, and the human realm has become this chaotic. As he spoke, he lifted his shirt, revealing a solid and alluring 7-pack. I couldn't take my eyes off the sight before me. Even after 3 years, Ethan's physique remained exactly as it was, not changing one bit. The 18 ex-boyfriends crowded closer to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It really is a 7-pack. How miraculous. Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey couldn't stand it anymore. They yelled, "What in the world do you people want? Just get to the point." Ethan calmly compressed the air, using his hand to push their heads to the ground. Then he lowered his shirt, glanced at the 18 ex-boyfriends, and asked, "Among you, who knows how to drive?" Me, I know how to drive." The young man, who had been at the front counting abs, immediately raised his hand and volunteered. Ethan nodded, satisfied. "Good, then you'll be the driver. Take everyone home, but this car can only hold a maximum of 5 people. There won't be enough room for more." "No," Ethan replied, shaking his head. "You just need to take me and Sora." The ex-boyfriend assigned the task drove me and Ethan to the police station entrance. Before I could step out of the car, he quickly made a phone call. "Are you ready?" On the other end of the line, the remaining 17 ex-boyfriends shouted in unison, "Ready." I stepped out of the car. Immediately, a familiar dazzling light appeared, making me squint. My 17 ex-boyfriends, each restraining one of the two traffickers, simultaneously teleported to the police station entrance. It was truly convenient, fast, and safe. However, at that very moment, a police squad, just finishing their patrol, unexpectedly witnessed this entire bizarre scene. They all froze, jaws agape in astonishment. Inside the police station's reception room, I, my 18 ex-boyfriends, and the two handcuffed traffickers sat in a long row. To avoid scaring the officers, Ethan had temporarily hidden himself inside the wall. "What exactly happened?" a stern-faced police officer asked. I honestly reported everything. "Officer, 3 days ago, I was kidnapped by these two traffickers right outside a convenience store in this area. You can check the surveillance cameras around there. The car they used is the one parked outside." The officer took notes while instructing someone nearby to quickly verify the information. "After being kidnapped, how did you manage to escape?" I rubbed my hands together, hesitating. "Officer, you just witnessed it yourself. My ex-boyfriends have the ability to teleport, and they're the ones who safely rescued me." Although the story sounded incredible, it was the truth. My 18 ex-boyfriends all nodded in unison, confirming my statement. The atmosphere in the room was gradually becoming more harmonious when the two traffickers suddenly started making a ruckus. "Lies, these 18 guys didn't do a thing. It was that ghost. He can compress air." The officer, already dazed from witnessing the teleportation, became even more confused upon hearing about a ghost. "A ghost? What's going on with a ghost?" So Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey took turns vaguely recounting the situation. In the end, both didn't forget to add, "Officers, you absolutely must catch that ghost. It can't be allowed to keep harming people." HMPH, human traffickers daring to report a ghost. The officer's face twisted as if he'd swallowed something indigestible. Then he turned to me and asked, "Your name is Sora, right? I see you're still lucid. Tell me the truth clearly." Because the officer was diligently serving the people, I couldn't lie. I had to gather all my courage and slowly replied, "Well, officer, what they said is mostly true." Before I could finish, the officer slammed his hand on the table and roared, "Do you people think this police station is a playground? If you continue with such absurd talk, I'll have you detained according to regulations." I awkwardly stood up, about to explain. Just then, a deep, magnetic voice echoed from inside the wall. "Sora isn't lying. Who dares detain her?" Ethan, with his handsome and charming demeanor, stepped out of the wall, floating towards the police officer. The officer stared blankly at him, completely captivated by his otherworldly beauty. Then his eyes widened, and he fainted on the spot. After extracting surveillance camera footage, the police force confirmed that Fat Tiger and Skinny Monkey were indeed traffickers. They were immediately taken into custody for investigation and legal action. My 19 ex-boyfriends and I continued to wait in the lounge. The officers were very thoughtful, even bringing us packed lunches, 20 portions in total. They said they weren't sure if ghosts could eat packed lunches, but they prepared them just in case. Ethan said he didn't eat, so I happily ate 2 portions. My belly full, I patted my round stomach, a look of utter contentment on my face. Just then, an officer opened the door and said, "Miss Sora, the chief wants to see you." I sat in the chief's office. The soft sofa somehow made me feel like I was sitting on pins and needles. This was because, across from me, the chief was looking at me with a stern and scrutinizing gaze. Then he shifted his gaze to Ethan, who was standing beside me. After hearing a detailed report from his subordinates, it was clear he still didn't entirely believe this bizarre story. But the entire police squad had witnessed the ex-boyfriend's instantaneous teleportation firsthand. Added to that, Ethan was currently in a semi-transparent state, forcing the chief to ponder deeply, trying to find an explanation for these strange occurrences. "So, you just need to not wash your hair for 3 days, and you can meet your ex-boyfriends again, whether they're alive or ghosts." I timidly replied, "Chief, you've asked me this question several times already." The chief nodded, standing up and pacing his office, as if trying to untangle a knot of confusion in his mind. I really needed to go to the bathroom, but I felt I absolutely had to say something to break the tense atmosphere. "Chief, I know this sounds hard to believe, but perhaps you could try verifying it again." The chief frowned at me, finally stopping his pacing. "Right, we must verify it again." His verification method was similar to what the two traffickers had done earlier. He led me to the police station entrance and had me step through the gate. A blinding light flashed again. When the light faded, my 18 ex-boyfriends, along with one ghost, appeared simultaneously before the chief. The 18 ex-boyfriends seemed to be quite used to this. Each went about their business, casually scrolling through their phones as they teleported, as if nothing unusual was happening. The chief was now clearly completely convinced, his face showing astonishment and emotion. He quickly turned and grabbed my hand, his voice filled with excitement. "Miss Sora, your special ability could make an immense contribution to our country." A creeping sense of unease slowly rose within me, signaling a tumultuous future ahead. My situation was quickly reported up through each level, passing through many similar verification rounds, eventually reaching key state agencies. To cooperate with the verification, I hadn't washed my hair for 8 consecutive days. Ethan didn't want me to wash my hair either. He said, "Sora, if you wash your hair, I'll have to return to the underworld and won't be able to see you again." I whimpered, "But I feel like my hair is starting to smell. Doesn't it bother you?" Ethan looked at me gently, comforting me. "It's okay, ghosts can't smell." "But you have eyes," I retorted angrily. "Do you see how greasy I look?" "Sora, in my eyes, you're always your cleanest and most beautiful self." I didn't believe a word of his sweet talk. "Say what you want. Today, I absolutely must wash my hair." In the end, I still couldn't wash my hair, because the moment I opened the shower faucet, a call from a high-level national department came through. "Miss Sora, please absolutely do not wash your hair. Please try to hold on for one more day. The organization has an extremely urgent mission that requires your assistance." A high-ranking executive of a leading domestic mobile phone company had been suspiciously arrested by government. This was due to Country B's efforts to suppress Country A's high-tech industry, and this phone company had become a thorn in their side. The esteemed executive was under strict house arrest in a private villa, wearing an electronic ankle bracelet and under 24/7 surveillance. Fortunately, he still had a fixed amount of time each day to contact the outside world. "You must make him your ex-boyfriend and bring him back to the country." This was the mission assigned to me by the organization. I wondered if my ability could actually be used this way. My mindset was unlocked once again. The mission leader spoke seriously. "Bringing him back is not just saving a business leader, but saving the entire technology industry of our country. Because Country B's target is not just one company, but the entire technology sector of Country A. If this company fails and collapses, the next company will also be put on the chopping block. The significance of this is immense." Those words ignited a flame of passion within me. "All right, I'll do it. If I can't bring him back, I swear I won't wash my hair." That very day, I connected with the detained executive, escorted by high-ranking officials. Since prior communication and arrangements had been made, my mission wasn't too complicated. He spoke, "You are Sora." I replied, "Yes, that's right." He continued, "I've seen your picture, you're very lovely. Do you agree to be my girlfriend?" I answered, "I agree." He said, "Excellent." Then we both fell silent for about 5 seconds. I broke the silence. "I've reconsidered. We're not very compatible. Let's break up." He responded, "No problem." To ensure the rule was effective, I emphasized one more sentence. "So, from now on, you're officially my ex-boyfriend, okay?" The call ended, and the most anticipated moment finally arrived. Under the expectant gazes of the surrounding staff, I solemnly stepped out of the door. The familiar light beam once again flared. My 18 ex-boyfriends and one ghost slowly appeared within the light. And then, a completely new figure emerged. Mr. Joe, the executive of the domestic phone company. He still had the monitoring bracelet on his ankle, but that didn't seem to diminish his charisma and poise. Seeing the scene before him, he paused for just a second, then quickly regained his composure. "Where is this?" The mission leader stepped forward, tears welling up in his eyes, and embraced him tightly. "Mr. Joe, welcome home." The familiar faces of Country A's people, the familiar sounds of Country A's language. In an instant, Mr. Joe's eyes turned red, as if a 1,000-pound burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He let out a long sigh. Finally, I'm home. My 19 ex-boyfriends and I were all deeply moved, speechless. After that emotional moment, Mr. Joe's gaze shifted to me, who hadn't washed her hair for 9 days. You are Sora. He looked at me with curiosity, as if admiring a rare panda. I nodded, my greasy hair making me feel a bit self-conscious. But Mr. Joe showed no signs of distaste. He stepped forward and took my hand. Thank you. Thanks to you, I was able to return safely. From now on, if there's anything I can help you with, just say the word. Since he'd said so much, I didn't hesitate to speak up. Actually, I do have a wish. Mr. Joe looked at me expectantly, encouraging me to speak my mind. I pointed to my greasy hair. Can I wash my hair now? 9 days passed, and finally I could wash my hair. It felt so clean and refreshing. No longer worried about running into an ex-boyfriend. Only I probably wouldn't see Ethan again either. Before I washed my hair, Ethan looked at me with an aggrieved expression, reiterating, Sora, after you wash your hair this time, please don't wash it again for 3 days. I still want to see you. I gave him a proud glare. You jerk, I know that without you telling me. HMPH, I won't admit that for the past 9 days I hadn't washed my hair because I couldn't bear to let him leave. But at the same time, I didn't want him to see me with greasy hair. Every girl wants to look beautiful in front of the person she likes. It's just that for me, it's almost impossible. My hair is oily. If I don't wash it for 3 days, my appearance drastically deteriorates. But if I wash it within those 3 days, I won't be able to see Ethan. Beauty and companionship truly couldn't be had both ways. Fortunately, Ethan loved me for my inner soul, and I didn't mind that he was just a dead man. After 3 years of not seeing each other, with just one look, I knew he still loved me, and so did I. That was enough. For the next 3 days, I wasn't idle either. Since successfully bringing Mr. Joe back safely, my reputation within state agencies immediately soared. Before long, they arranged for me a dozen ex-boyfriends. That's right, a dozen 12 people. Among them, 3 were scientists from country A holding the world's most advanced technology. Similar to senior Kyan Zeusen of yesteryear, they had achieved success abroad but were obstructed from returning, eventually forced to stay and put under strict surveillance. 4 others were spies from country A operating in foreign intelligence agencies. They had gathered a lot of valuable confidential information but couldn't easily return due to their special identities. The remaining 5 were undercover police officers from country A embedded in major criminal organizations in the Golden Triangle. They had infiltrated for many years, grasping specific situations, but due to continuous sabotage within the organization, they had fallen under suspicion and were now on the brink of life and death. According to the plan, I successively became the girlfriend, then the ex-girlfriend of each of them. And now I just had to wait 3 days to meet my 32 ex-boyfriends again. The staff members gripped their stopwatches, anxiously waiting. It's time! Amidst excited cheers, under everyone's watchful eyes, I took a step out of the door. The familiar dazzling light appeared again. 31 living individuals and 1 ghost simultaneously appeared in the light beam. Thunderous applause erupted around us. Wonderful, we're finally home. Everyone was overcome with emotion, unable to control themselves, and triumphant music played. But immediately after, the light completely faded, and I realized something was wrong. The person lying on the ground seemed to be on the verge of death. I had seen a picture of him. He was an undercover police officer in the North Mayan region. At the time of teleportation, he was being brutally tortured by drug traffickers. Now he was barely clinging to life. Quickly, get a stretcher and get him to the hospital immediately. The mission leader reacted instantly. To facilitate timely health checks for those who had just returned, the rendezvous point was chosen right outside a suburban hotel near a hospital. Even so, an ambulance couldn't arrive in minutes. And at this moment, the police officer was in a critical situation. This is bad. Half of his soul has already left his body. It's too late. Ethan, being a ghost, could naturally see the soul leaving the body. He shouted loudly, "Everyone, get out of the way. Let me handle this." My other ex-boyfriends immediately dispersed, leaving a clear space for Ethan. Ethan subtly rotated his wrist, and the air around the police officer was reinforced layer by layer, then lifted him into the air. He shot like an arrow directly to the operating room of the hospital a kilometer away. Even if we drove, we couldn't catch up. The mission leader could only sit in the car and call the doctor, meticulously explaining the situation and requesting immediate surgery. When we arrived, the surgery had already begun. Ethan sat on the bench outside the operating room, his face pale and tired. If previously the staff and my other ex-boyfriends had been wary of him, now everyone showed profound respect. "Ethan, you're a good ghost. On behalf of the department officials, I thank you." The mission leader was so moved that he wanted to shake Ethan's hand. Of course, that was impossible. Ethan's semi-transparent hand passed through the mission leader's hand, creating a symbolically intertwined image. "I only wanted to help Sora," he said, his eyes on me. I walked over, my heart aching. "You must be very tired, aren't you?" But Ethan began to show his arrogant side. "HMPH, I haven't seen you for 3 days and you've already accumulated so many more ex-boyfriends." I blinked. "Are you jealous?" "HMPH, I did it for the country. I don't actually like them." "HMPH, I didn't expect this jerk to be so difficult to appease." I leaned closer, shamelessly saying, "The only one I like is you, Ethan. I've missed you so much these past 3 years." Ethan no longer looked arrogant. He gently turned his head, his clear, sparkling eyes looking directly into mine. Those eyes held a myriad of emotions too complex and profound to describe. After a seemingly endless moment, he let out a soft sigh, pressing his lips tightly together as if trying to suppress something. "You must always remember this. You have the right to like me, but we can never be together." I was confused and quickly asked, "Why not? Is it because we're separated by life and death?" He seemed helpless, a hint of anger in his voice. "It's not because of separation between life and death. It's because if you don't wash your hair for 3 days and go out, you can only meet ex-boyfriends, not current boyfriends." Hearing that, I couldn't help but giggle. So after all this, he still just wants to be with me. My other ex-boyfriends also came forward one by one to greet Ethan. Especially the 3 recently rescued scientists. They looked at Ethan with such curiosity, as if they wanted to take him back to the lab for research. But Ethan, after all, was my first love, at the top of the ex-boyfriend list, and could also be considered their senior. As brothers, it's best to maintain harmony. So, although those scientists really wanted to understand Ethan, they only dared to secretly observe him. No one dared to make any rash moves. As for my first 18 ex-boyfriends, there's no need to say much. Some surrounded Ethan, calling him their close brother. Others bravely approached and chatted with the leading scientists. Some enthusiastically gossiped with the 4 spies, while others listened intently to the undercover police officers tell thrilling stories from the dangerous Golden Triangle. Of course, the person they were most grateful to was me. "Sora, being your ex-boyfriend is an honor, a great fortune for us." That was the shared sentiment of all of them. A few hours later, the operating room door opened. The doctor stepped out, his face relieved and brightened. "The surgery was a complete success. The patient is out of critical condition." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, their eyes red with emotion, embracing each other, sharing their overwhelming joy. It was then that I suddenly remembered a crucial issue. I turned to Ethan and asked, "This time, when you came from the underworld to the human realm, why weren't you delayed like before? Why did you arrive at the same time as everyone else?" Ethan smiled and explained, "Given my special circumstances, the underworld issued me a special pass. Now, every time I come to the human realm, I don't need to go through tedious visa applications. Even the underworld has become this humane." I was truly overjoyed beyond words. "Thank you so much, Underworld's People First policy. From now on, I can see Ethan more promptly." Afterward, under the organization's arrangements, I acquired many, many more ex-boyfriends. I repeatedly participated in crucial missions, such as evacuating overseas compatriots from war zones, rescuing endangered undercover police officers, and transporting important individuals from imminent danger to safety. I helped countless people return to their families, contributing a small but immensely important part to the cause of national security and development. However, that strange rule had a loophole. Every time I hadn't washed my hair for 3 days and stepped out of my house, all my ex-boyfriends would appear simultaneously. Some of them were still dazed, not understanding what was happening, when they were suddenly teleported to a completely unfamiliar place. and the number of my ex-boyfriends kept growing. Notifying each person before every outing was truly a tedious and time-consuming task. So, I decided to create a group chat for them on social media. Every time I was about to go out, I would send a notification in the group chat so everyone could prepare themselves mentally. They even eagerly discussed upcoming missions in the group. I wonder which new brothers will have the honor of joining the club next. Such a massive harem, and I could still manage it neatly and orderly. Perhaps I was the first person ever to achieve this. Thanks to my outstanding and continuous contributions, the department leaders granted me special permission to join the official staff. From then on, I could officially dedicate myself fully to the organization, serving the country and its people. 1 year after I joined the official staff, the leadership generously decided to assign me a special task force, and the members of this task force were none other than all my ex-boyfriends. This special task force comprised over 1,000 people. As long as I was there, I could summon over 1,000 individuals to wherever the country needed them. On the day I officially dated this special task force, the weather was beautiful. They lined up in neat formation, standing solemnly on the vast training ground, waiting for me to inspect the troops. I stood on the high platform, and for a moment, it felt like I was back in my university's military summer camp days. The only difference was that back then, I stood among the ranks, but now I stood on the platform with a completely different role and status. I intently watched the powerful, perfectly synchronized steps of the soldiers. Then, like the principal of yesteryear inspecting the troops, I stepped down from the platform and walked along each row. Every time I passed a formation, I raised my megaphone and shouted, "Hello, handsome soldiers." They uniformly replied, "Hello, Sora." I continued to ask if they wanted to date. They all answered, "For Sora, we are ready." I continued to inspect the troops through each row until I had gone through all the formations and returned to the platform. By this time, the microphone and sound system had been adjusted by the technicians, ready for my important speech. I stood in the middle of the vast training ground, surrounded by countless ex-boyfriends with whom I had once been intimately involved. My resolute gaze swept across them, and I spoke in a resounding voice. "Today, I have a very important announcement. I officially break up with each and every one of you." Thunderous applause erupted from the crowd, lasting endlessly, showing astonishing unanimity. Since I acquired a powerful army of ex-boyfriends with over 1,000 members from the armed forces, the happiness index of the nation's people seemed to soar to new heights. Once, a massive forest fire broke out in a remote area. The mountain roads were too treacherous, fire trucks couldn't access it at all, and even regular firefighters felt helpless. So, I was taken up the mountain by motorbike. The motorbike roared, waiting for me, and I carried a door. It sounds strange, but it's true. After countless tests and verifications by reputable scientific organizations, as long as I stepped through a door, the special rule would activate, no matter if it was a house door, a car door, or simply an empty door frame. Therefore, I carefully carried a wooden door frame. Upon arrival, I set it up and stepped through. Immediately, like magic, over 1,000 ex-boyfriends, fully equipped with firefighting gear, appeared simultaneously. The forest fire was quickly extinguished, preserving the forest's precious ecosystem and saving countless trees and wild animals. Not long after, a heavy rain unexpectedly hit another city, causing severe flooding. The entire city was submerged, traffic was completely paralyzed, and transporting rescue forces became impossible. Without a second of hesitation, I immediately flew to the scene by helicopter. And of course, I once again summoned my army of over 1,000 ex-boyfriends. They carried flood control supplies and urgently participated in the rescue, saving countless lives from danger, bringing faith and hope to those who were desperate. Apart from the natural disasters mentioned above, such as earthquakes, landslides, flash floods, or human-made disasters like riots and shootings, the image of me and my army of ex-boyfriends always appeared in the most dangerous places. People whispered about a secret teleportation device invented by the nation, ready to save lives at a moment's notice. As for me, I was just an ordinary person hidden behind all that glory. However, whenever a large-scale disaster occurred, there were always ex-boyfriends from the armed forces who sacrificed their lives. The number of ex-boyfriends appearing as ghosts, like Ethan, grew steadily. But the miracle was that they could still interact with the physical world, using a special air compression technique to continue serving the people. To some extent, this helped alleviate the pain of losing comrades for the living soldiers. After all, after 3 days of washing my hair, the fallen comrades would still appear, just in a more transparent state. Months and years passed, spring turned to autumn, winter to summer. I grew older, and the number of my ex-boyfriends also steadily increased. Ethan always stayed by my side, loyal and unchanging. By the time I was near death, he had become the leader of 888 ex-boyfriends. Of course, this huge number wasn't counted by me, but by my younger sister Lily. She had eyes that could see through a fish pond, easily counting the number of fish in it. She said that although I wasn't literally a fish pond queen, because my 888 ex-boyfriends were constantly lingering, she counted them all as part of my fish pond. I wasn't surprised. Of course they lingered. At any moment I could instantly summon them to dangerous places. Even as ghosts, they couldn't rest in peace. Of course, now I wouldn't summon them indiscriminately anymore. After all, the number of ex-boyfriends was too great. It would take an entire stadium to hold them all. I was old now, nearing death, no longer strong enough to fight on the front lines for the people. On the day I took my last breath, all 888 ex-boyfriends came to bid me farewell. To avoid exploding my villa due to the sheer number, they lined up in an infinitely long row, each stepping to my bedside to say goodbye. Among them were those who were still alive, and those who had become spirits. Not a few of them were the young, handsome men that the nation had assigned to me over the years. I was so old my teeth had fallen out, yet Ethan was still jealous of those young guys. I had to coax him. Don't be jealous anymore. I'm coming down there with you soon. Once I die, it will just be you and me. Only then did Ethan break into a radiant smile. Sora, when you come down, we'll be the only ones for each other, won't we? For so many years, Ethan had watched my army of ex-boyfriends grow larger and larger, his heart both bitter and helpless. Now that I was about to die, we could finally enjoy a world of our own. I happily took his hand, firmly saying, yes. My soul gradually left my body. I began to become like Ethan, my body slowly turning transparent. Ethan held my hand, and together we floated to the gate of the underworld. The moment I stepped through the dark gate of the underworld, it suddenly lit up. My 8,888 ex-boyfriends immediately rushed and jostled, causing the underworld's reception area to explode. Aha! I glanced nervously at Ethan, whispering, it seems that even in the underworld I'll still have to regularly meet your 887 brothers. Ethan's radiant face suddenly turned ashen, darker than when he cried. But what can I do? After all, ghosts can't wash their hair. This peculiar rule, I'm afraid, I can't escape it for this lifetime. No, for all lifetimes. Ha, M.